But you know, it's interesting, Sheldon. Most authors that I've encountered in recent months seem to be able to write 4, 5, 6 series books, and then there's just some demon that seizes them, and they think. I think what it really is that you acquire so much baggage in a series. I mean, you already know that. You've got all these characters, and people want to keep up with them, and they've got histories now, and then you get a story that doesn't really fit all the baggage that you have packed for these people, and there you are. So you almost have to, like, do a new one.
Yeah, it hasn't been an issue for me yet.
But we're at book 4.
But we're at book 4, and I can think a couple of books ahead to what I think I want to do, but you do start to worry that you've addressed all of your characters' baggage, or enough of your characters' baggage, that maybe it's time to start thinking about something else. The other thing is, it gets more difficult to think of ways to say, my protagonist is a criminal defense attorney in San Francisco who's a former public defender, former priest, former husband, and former partner at a big law firm. You have to say it somehow, and you have to say it in a new way that's interesting and creative to bring everybody up to date, or at least to bring the new readers in, but you don't want to repeat yourself either. The other thing that I have discovered happens is readers have certain expectations, and you're sort of competing with yourself in some respects. If I were to write a 700-page book after writing 5 or 4, 400-page books, I would hear from my readers. If I did a book that didn't have a significant courtroom component, I would hear from my readers. Criminal Intent does not have as much courtroom as the other 3 books, and my readers commented upon that. So, you try to do something new, you try to do something different, but if you go too far with new and different, you may rub some people the wrong way, and it's kind of a tricky one to balance.
Well, it is, and I think, for a variety of reasons, I think writers, as I say, tend to get restive. I brought it up only because this is book 4, and this is where I sort of begin to hear, from a lot of writers about, maybe, I'll try. The other, thing that we haven't touched upon, but of course your books would make marvelous movies, is this whole issue of, if you sell a series to the movies, you give up really basically the characters,
yes,
in perpetuity, to the movies. So if you want to really start doing well in that regard, you almost have to write standalone books. Then they can only take one book.
That's right, and I think standalones really do lend themselves more to, a 2-hour treatment on the big screen. It would be difficult to take, you could take perhaps one of these books or maybe a couple of them, but trying to condense that down into something that's workable in 2 or 2.5 hours, I think it would be very difficult to keep the flavor of the stories and the characters, and that concerns me a bit, because we have had interest in both, movie and TV series, and it would be fun if it happened, and I'd love to see it happen, but I get a little nervous that they may turn them into something that I wouldn't necessarily be all that excited about.
And then you can't take them back, so that's an issue for sure. The other thing I think too that can be appealing about a standalone, in a series, you've got to leave the book. You're going to exit whichever book you're writing in the series with Mike and Rosie intact, or you're going to take such a firestorm from your readers that you might as well go home. In a standalone, you really can put everybody at risk. You
That's
can
right.
kill them off. And there's a certain unreality to a series in the sense that you've got people dealing with murder and serious crime, life and death, taking amazing chances, and yet miraculously at the end, no matter how many bodies pile up, your guys exit.
That's right.
They may be shot up, they may be beat to death, and of course that's one of the other criticisms you often hear is, how resilient can a 40-year-old attorney be when he's beaten to a pulp and then he's shot and then whatever, and somehow he miraculously comes back, in 6 months without rehab. Forget it.
That's true.
But you can raise the stakes in a standalone, and in fact, if you need to, for whatever purpose of the story, you can actually kill your protagonist at the end and make everybody truly grieve.
Yeah. Well, I think that's absolutely true. My readers know. I write in the first person. If Mike dies in chapter 2, there's no book. We're done. So my readers know. He may get, pushed around a little bit. He may get hit in the head. He may be in a car chase here or there. But, when you're writing in first person, you can't kill your protagonist. You might think about it every once in a while, but trying to ramp up the suspense and the fear, you can do it to a certain level, but I don't think you can do it to the point. It's not James Bond. It's not a true thriller, I guess, in that respect. And I think you're right. I mean, if you can write a standalone, you could put everybody in jeopardy, and the readers don't really know who could be left standing at the end, and I think it allows you to amp up the tension. In Criminal Intent, you may recall that Rosie has to deal with breast cancer, and it was a difficult issue for me to write about. It was a difficult issue for a lot of my readers to write about, and it's not giving too much away to say she's okay. She's in the 4th book, and you know she's going to be fine. But it was, I got a lot of mail from people on that, and
what, saying she's going to die,
you
or
cannot kill Rosie. And I said, you know, I would just tell them, keep reading, everything's going to be okay. But when you got to be careful with that when your protagonists are going to be on stage as much as mine, and these are character-driven books, and you can only ramp up the tension to a certain point because Mike is going to be there at the end, and Rosie is too.
Exactly. And of course you touched on another aspect, which is you've been writing in first person, which you can't really now divorce yourself from.
That's right.
But if you wrote something else, you could try your hand at a different narrative style, a different voice.
Yeah, well, I mean, you look at someone like Harlan Coben, who wrote a series of mysteries and then wrote a standalone that really broke out.
And it was now repeated it.
Yeah, well, I like his work a lot.
I do too.
But
it actually is a mistake to say he's not writing a series, because it's like a Dick Francis series.
Yeah.
Different folks, but you know, but it's still, there are common threads going through it.
Yeah, but I don't know him well, but I've met him, and he had observed, you know, it gave him the freedom to break away from what he was doing and ramp up the tension in those books. And I think they're very good books.
I do too, and I'm certainly not prompting you, know, to abandon Mike and Rosie, but I will be astonished if somebody who's obviously completely fallen in love with what you're doing. I mean, you don't want to give up your law practice. I haven't heard you actually say that. No,
I'm not going to give up my law practice, and I'm not going to stop writing Mike and Rosie anytime soon, because I have so much fun writing in this voice, and it allows me to. Mike's voice is so similar to my own as it is, and I have so much fun poking fun at people in and around town here and there that it would be hard for me to develop a new voice. I think I would also have to take a lot more time to kind of start the whole process from scratch, because when you write a series, you do have a whole cast that you can call upon.
Series books get easier. I mean, many authors who write series say to me, you know, that it gets faster as you go along, because you have a lot fewer decisions about character and so forth to make, and so you can compress your writing time down more dramatically and think about other issues. But I just suspect, because they think that writing, you know, is so seductive and you're so obviously in love with it, that at some point you're going to want to do something, you know, just to challenge yourself, if for no other reason.
Yeah,
you know.
I may try something else one of these days.
Have you ever tried a short story?
I've never tried a short story.
There's a challenge too. I mean, you know, and I don't know whether it would work for the kinds of stuff you want to write, because they are so crystallized into just really plot. Yeah,
it would be hard. You know, I kid about the fact that I can't write anything shorter than 125,000 words. I can't write a shopping list shorter than.
That's the lawyer in you, Sheldon.
Well,
what can I say?
There's no, in legal work, there's no premium on being concise. But
this is very true.
But I mean, on occasion, I'm asked to write reviews or shorter stuff for newspapers, and it's very hard for me. And I have great admiration for people who can do that. I have great admiration for the fact that you put out your store's bulletin, so frequently, and you have nice, concise, well-written reviews and information about so many things, and I can't write short stuff like that.
I'm writing volume 15, number 10.
Is it really?
Unbelievable. It's been my life. If one more author says to me, you're ever going to write a book, I'm probably going to commit homicide, and that will be at the end of this program. And speaking of which, we've arrived at the end of this program. It always goes too fast. Sheldon, thank you.
Thank you very much.
I've always enjoyed the hour that we get all to ourselves here to talk. So thanks for coming. And certainly I thank all of you for joining us on this episode of the Criminal Calendar. And you know what? It is the hardest thing in the world to distill.